Let's talk about this very pleasant and warm Labour Party tweet about Andy Burnham being their candidate in Makerfield. Congratulations, good luck. My gosh, that's a real recollections may vary moment, isn't it, for the Labour Party?
I mean, what else can he say?
Yeah,
Frankly, what else can he say? He wants the party to do well. And if you've seen Andy Burnham's video that's kind of doing the rounds with the Oasis soundtrack,
we can hear a bit, actually. Shall we hear
go
a
on
bit?
then,
Yeah.
let's
have a listen.
Some say this by-election is unnecessary. I say it's the most consequential of our lives. I don't take anything for granted, and I'm ready to accept the consequences of whatever choice people make.
Well, we need somebody that's one of the people, that's somebody that understands the common person. We need somebody like him for the next Prime Minister, because he will be, definitely.
What he's doing now, I think a lot of Manchester love him for that, you know what I mean?
Everything that he's achieved in Manchester, it's time to take it to the rest of the country. Honestly, it's just what it needs.
I'm good. You? One of the things that made me most proud recently is someone saying on a doorstep, "Nice to see you. Andy's all right. He's for us. I am for us. All of us."
It's not a particularly slick video, which I think works to his advantage, because what you get, if you watch it in full, is just a bloke who's really comfortable in their own skin. And that was the thing that struck me. I haven't heard that ease for so long. And it's not about Labour or Reform. It's just about somebody who can walk around their own patch, who can feel recognised by people because he's been there, frankly, for so long, and who doesn't sort of leave you wincing when they say what their football club is or what their pint is or what, you know. He sort of seems to inhabit the world that he genuinely is. And that I can't explain that. Just it feels very different when you watch it. And we had on the newsagents today Neil Lawson, who's the co-founder of Compass, somebody who's tipped possibly for a job within a sort of, you know, Andy Burnham future sort of shaped government. Who knows?
If that happened,
he obviously, he would deny that, and he'd say there are plenty of steps between, you know, now and there. But he was the one who said, I think you should go and do this video. He had the concept of the video, send Andy Burnham out and said, just walk from there to there and see what happens. And I said, oh, come on, don't tell me all those people sort of magically appeared. And he said, well, obviously, you use the best clips, you don't use the terrible clips. But it was pretty organic. You know, people do know him around that area.
You don't use the clips of the busy woman going, no, not today, Andy, leave me alone.
Who are you? Yeah. So I guess, you know, but he was quite honest about the thing. And what we're trying to get to the bottom of, and there are several steps between sort of now, today, where he's just been declared the, as you say, the Labour candidate, and whatever happens over the course of the next 5 weeks and maybe 3 months of the summer, is the shape of things to come. So let's talk about the by-election first of all, because that's, you know, pretty much in our sightlines now. The tactical voting numbers are really interesting on this. So these are people who are not Labour supporters, who would not normally vote for Labour, who say they would vote for Burnham in this seat. 16% of current Tory voters, Conservatives, would vote Burnham. 6% of Reform voters would vote Burnham. 35% of Green, 46% of Lib Dems. And OK, that's just one seat and it's one race and it's one person. But it seems to speak to something that Neil was talking to us about, Neil Lawson, which is a more consensual type of politics. And I don't think we've had that or heard of that or seen it for ages. And he used the example of when, you know, Andy Burnham was making a speech in Manchester and the person who introduced him is a Lib Dem, right? It's not about being Labour. At that point, it's about being Manchester. It's about pulling in the other parties. I remember, like a zillion years ago, when Andy Burnham was Health Secretary, hearing him say, we need to find a cross-party consensus on social care. I just want to solve the problem. I don't care about party politics. I want to get to the bottom of this. Of course, it never happened, right? And they never got the cross-party support. And look where we are with social care, you know, 20 years on, absolutely nowhere. And so I think, if I'm honest, that's given me a bit of a kind of like
a political chill.
Well, sort of warm feeling. I like the fact that things might get done. What I would say, I mean, I think that two things can both be true. I would also say that I'm feeling from some parts, and certainly from some of our listeners and some of our viewers, there is a queasiness to the speed at which we are all talking about this and maybe talking it up and imagining a future, and people are kind of going, what are you doing? Don't think that more political instability is going to generate a better economic outlook or a calmer country or, stop the frayed nerves, that you are actually creating this sort of slightly faster than you can breathe momentum of change.
And neither is making the same decisions that don't seem to be working a good idea, is it?
I mean, that's the thing, right?
Argument.
So you're stuck with sort of both things. I don't feel I have a dog in this race particularly. I can totally hear people who say to me, just calm it down, just stop sort of, speeding this into a new kind of drama of change, and we must break and change, because that's not actually helping the economy at all.
Those tactical voting stats you just gave me are really interesting, because they reflect something that a guest we had on the programme from More in Common at the tail end of last week was telling us, that they had completely coincidentally done a deep dive into Makerfield, would you believe, before any of this happened, quite recently.
Amazing. Yeah.
And they found, particularly on Reform voters, because of course Reform did very well in the local elections there, in that area, that it was a very mobile electorate, and the guest I was speaking to felt it could travel to Burnham, and your figures there seem to bear that out.
I mean, I think the point about the Reform vote has always been, or has long been, it's about rejecting the status quo. Right, so you kick the people that are in power because you want to be the anti-establishment vote. And so if you're hurting, or if you feel there's injustice, or if you feel that you're forgotten, or if you feel you're left behind, or if you just feel angry, frankly, with whoever is in power, then you choose Reform because you think it's about breaking the system.
But you've just used language very similar to what Andy Burnham was saying yesterday.
Completely.
Which he's going to be the rebel candidate.
He wants to be the insurgent now, and he wants to be the I'm Manchester taking on Westminster. And if he can beat Reform at their own game, in other words, saying, oh no, you've been around for ages, in the form of, Farage and Brexit and all the kind of, recent turmoil that we've seen in this part of the world. I mean, I don't think I'll mention Brexit, but certainly Reform arguably are the establishment now, in the sense that this is what we're living with now. We are living in a post-Brexit land that they required.
They've announced their candidate as well in a campaign video for their new candidate, Robert Kenyon. He's a plumber. In the caption, they write, Makerfield was Andy Burnham's backup plan. For Robert Kenyon, it's his home. This battle will be David versus Goliath. Let's take a listen to some of it.
I mean, look, plumbers do very well, right? Gordon and Denton.
Great.
Everyone loves a plumber.
Yeah.
If I was the opposition, I'd be saying, don't let another plumber be taken out of the system, right? You'll never get a plumber in Makerfield.
Come and visit me.
Exactly. But I think it's probably quite a smart choice.
It is a smart choice, isn't it? And equally, they are going to come at, Reform are going to come at Burnham's time in office. You mentioned him as Health Secretary. That's just one example. But they will come at that, won't they?
Look, I mean, it's very easy to say this man who's portraying himself as an insurgent has been in the Blair government, has voted for the Iraq War, has worked under Brown, has done key jobs in office, and don't let him tell you he doesn't know Westminster or, he's never been part of the system. He was the system. And I guess that, of course they have a point. You can't erase your history. I think Burnham's response to that would be, yes, I have worked pretty loyally for all the leaders that I have served, because I believe that's the job of somebody in the cabinet.
He makes the manager-player analogy, doesn't he?
The manager-player, exactly, the football analogy. And then in Manchester, he's been his own person. And he's had that executive power, and he's, created somewhere along the lines a brand, right? Manchesterism. We don't know what Starmerism is. We don't really know what Raynerism. We don't know what Streetyism. We don't know any of that, but we kind of understand Manchesterism as this idea of, in their words, business-friendly socialism. In other words, you don't scare the horses, but you do still put, the people at the heart of the decisions you're making rather than the corporates.
And if you're an ordinary voter in Makerfield, and we've had some great calls from people who will be voting in that election, seeing just those two, obviously there'll be other candidates, but seeing those two candidates, they might say, well, hang on, why would I vote for a guy who wasn't born here, whose only real ambition in this town is to get into Westminster and try and become Prime Minister. Again, I would argue Burnham's probably got an answer for that as well, which would be not born there, grew up there, went to school there, sent my kids to the same school there, you know, which is all in that video.
I think it's quite hard to make a case that he's not local. He literally points to the rugby fields that he played on.
And
is
the mayor of Greater Manchester.
And he sent his kids, as you say that. I don't think people are going to be like, oh, show me the, the hospital ward, right?
Birtherism.
Exactly. Like, where's your certificate? I think people get that if you come from a place, you come from a place. But I also think, I mean, this is where it gets really interesting. There is a pride, isn't there, in feeling that you could be choosing your next Prime Minister, right? I mean, again, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
And an anxiety. I had a caller last Friday who said she felt anxious about it.
And what? Why?
She just felt it was a
too
weight
much responsibility.
on her shoulder. Yeah.
I mean, it's like Sedgefield. The people of Sedgefield have never forgotten, for better or for worse, that they were the place that made Tony Blair.
Yeah.
Right? And I wonder if there is that sort of sense of, you know what a big step it is. This is a big by-election because let's just imagine, let's flip it for a moment. Yeah. If Robert Kenyon, born in Makerfield, plumber, takes the seat, that's the end. That's the end of Manchesterism or Burnhamism. It's all gone, right? And then presumably Keir Starmer kind of lives to fight another day, and that's
only just though. With reform breathing down his neck.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Interesting times we live in. Thank you very much indeed. Have you got your train ticket booked yet to Makerfield?
We've got Luke Chill planning us a very nice, constituency
visit.
Visit.
Brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
Look forward to it. Thanks very much, Emily.